What's something that your parents constantly pressured you to do growing up? A family friend of mine wasn't allowed to date as a teenager. If he showed interest in a girl, his parents just teased him about it, or they told him that relationships distracted him from getting good grades. As a result, he then became quite hesitant in interacting with the opposite gender, and unfortunately it shows now. He's now in his late 20s, and whilst he has a very successful career, he still hasn't even kissed a girl and is still generally very awkward around women. The moment he graduated university, his parents have been saying, "When are you going to bring a nice girl home? We want grandkids." They've been constantly hounding him about it. I have a feeling they are going to be massively disappointed, but at the same time I hope he proves me wrong. Get better grades. Be better at sports. Nothing is ever good enough. We have a couple of levels of schools. I wasn't in the highest, but scored 100% in my exam. Not the highest level though, so nobody cares about your 100%. Became the best in a certain sport in my country. Well, you're not world champion, are you? This means nothing. They f'd me up big time. Took over 10 years of counseling. For what it's worth, I'm super proud of you for getting 100%. Never raise my voice. Even before fights I'll say mean crap in a polite voice. Hey bro, F you. You read that quietly, didn't you? For some reason I read that in Michael Jackson's voice. Around 12. My dad made me pay him 5C every time I said the word because I was using it too much and it made me sound dumb. If at the end of the day I didn't say once, he gave me $5. Got me out of the habit in about 2 weeks. Lasted my whole life. Every time I would end a sentence with "you know," my dad would say "yes we know," made me so pee off it broke my habit in like a week. Stay skinny. My mom made me start drinking diet pop when I was 14 because I was about 90 pounds and might get fat. She Jedi mind fricked me for most of my adult life. That sucks. I hope you're okay now, colon. Because I like to write, they assumed that I always was capable of writing anything at any given time, and couldn't grasp that maybe I didn't always want to write, and maybe I was blocked sometimes. Creativity isn't just a switch you can flip on or off, at least in my experience. I also constantly got the "you're so smart, you should aim higher and higher than where you currently are" spiel, aka the "nothing is ever enough" spiel. Let me figure out what my own dang happy place is, thanks. Alcohol. As early as 13 I was doing shots with family and friends. I live in Wisconsin and am surrounded by alcoholism. Now I'm 34 years old with the liver of a 50-year-old sailor. Cheers matey. It's never too late to quit or drink responsibly. I hope it works out for you, bud. They tried to pressure me into having clean thoughts. Too bad. Grew up to be a frisky teenage girl. Hopefully it wears off during adulthood. Name checks out. Chores. Like, an insane amount. I'm almost certain my dad only wanted kids in order to clean up his mess. After I got a job in high school they had me come home during my open school periods in order to get my chores done because I was no longer around after school to do them. And that is how you have kids leave and never call home. Be self-sufficient, independent. This sounds like a good thing and it is, in moderation. But sometimes kids need some emotional or financial support. 10-year-olds should not be made to feel guilty for having needs, like sympathy or socks. To get a blue-collar factory job that I'd hate that would work me to death with 6 days of 12-hour shifts just because it would get me money. Like literally recommending I drop out of college to do that, even though I have 0 qualifications and am not interested in that field. They also tried to convince my partner to do the same even though he has a good paying job. I'm in the same boat. My dad wants me to work a union factory operator job and doesn't want me working for less than $12 an hour, even if it means being unemployed until I get a job like that. I'm also not okay mentally and don't care if I make minimum wage. I just want to work somewhere that I'm appreciated and respected. Make babies. Give them grandchildren. Find a husband. And become a stay-at-home mom that homeschooled her kids. Now I'm double majoring in STEM courses, planning to attend graduate school for a master's, and was even encouraged by one of my professors to pursue a PhD. If you're on a PhD track, lots of schools will award you a master's along the way once you've met certain criteria. Career. You need good grades. You should go to university. You should aim for being a lawyer or a doctor. Doesn't matter what makes you happy. As a woman, you should be educated and have a big butt career. You owe that to us. Well, frick you. I can't work due to health issues and am a housewife now, lol. There's nothing wrong with being a housewife. How two consenting adults divvy up household chores and earning money is nobody else's business. You do you. Sorry about the health issues, though. That's too bad. Knocking before you go into a room. I learned the hard way, but they never knock and you know how many dang times they have walked in. Be social. Make some friends. Join a club. Then when friends bullied me or things went sour, well, that's what you get for hanging out with them. Make up your freaking mind. This still makes me cringe to this day. My mum thought I'd make a great model. Okay, yes, I was tall and thin, maybe pretty enough, but I was very shy and awkward. I was the teenager that wanted to hide at the back room in a crowd and hoped I wasn't noticed by anyone ever. And if you spoke to me, I'd blush bright red, stutter and trip over anything I said. Mum refused to listen or notice I had not even close the personality needed to model, and she signed me up to modeling courses, photography classes, etc. Pure torture and heck on earth. At the end of a 10-week course there would be a graduation night. OMG. Catwalk modeling and swimwear and day wear and formal wear. Far out. I'm starting to hyperventilate now just thinking about it. Spoiler alert. I didn't become a famous model, or any sort of model. Years later I did overcome my shyness and can now even run workshops and do public speaking, but dang mum, she made my teen years heck. Shudder. I can still see her pulling out a new brochure or pamphlets for some new course she'd found that she was sure was the one that would have some talent scout find me. To this day she'll pull out photo albums with pictures of me on stage. Look how gorgeous you were, and all I see is the terror in my eyes, lol. My parents kept trying to get me to be a model for most of my adolescence, into about 16 or so. Started out writing with my left hand, was forced to change that. Now I'm left-handed but I can write only with my right hand. Fricked me up in subtle ways I can't quite explain. I eventually switched back to my left hand, but I feel the same way. My parents have always tried to make me their perfect son, as if they're trying to make me as they would have liked when they were my age. My dad forced me into crap like cricket and painting, which I never liked and was never good at. When they gave up on trying to teach me, they still constantly remind me on how much I used to like doing it. I've always wanted to make some form of content, say on YouTube or Twitch, but my parents have always told me that it's a waste of time that I'll never get anything out of. But like FFS, what happened to all that crap you were trying to make me like? How TF has that helped me and my life? You have a much better chance at becoming a professional YouTuber than a professional cricket player, lol. Go to school. Stay in school. You're nothing without school. You'll never be successful without school. 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 Show. Play golf. Swim. Everything that could potentially set me up for in the future. I just wanted to be the perfect daughter and I felt so lost trying to do things to make me happy and them happy. Fast forward about 2 years, and I found out that my boyfriend golfed, so I am currently back in the game. Thanks mom. Play sports. Team sports specifically, and it was my dad doing the pressuring. I tried soccer, basketball, baseball, swimming, and even lacrosse. But then I got into karate and my dad had very little support for me in that, but it helped me be a better person in all aspects. It helped me be more outgoing and it taught me discipline and respect for others as well as how to defend myself. While I was doing that I was learning guitar, which my dad also did not show support until I started getting really good and playing in bands. TLDR, my dad pushed me to play team sports but I chose music and karate instead without his support. My mom always tried to force me to go to church. I lost my faith when I was 8. I loved reading. I decided to read the Bible. I read a bunch of messed up things, and things contradicted each other a lot. I hated church, hated the fake people, hated everything about it. She eventually stopped brining me when it pointed out in front of everyone the contradictions they were preaching. Have a boyfriend and then a husband, have kids, be obedient. Oh well, let's say that when I revealed my romanticism they were not so happy about it. Be more like my younger brother. My brother could keep his room clean, focus better in school, was a healthier weight, and wasn't as awkward around people. Here's a kicker. He's never lived on his own. He went from living at home to living with his girlfriend, now wife. He would be completely clueless if he had to take care of bills, groceries, and all that stuff alone. I also spent most of my life with my ADHD undiagnosed. It's been in the last 7ish years that I even found out I have ADHD. Despite all this, I still love my brother because none of it was his fault. He was just doing his thing like I was. Be modest. Ask for forgiveness and pray for mercy for a dirty rotten sinner. Now I'm a real hoe. God doesn't judge PPL. Username checks out. Playing football. Everyone wanted me to be this great football player because my dad was pretty good and played through college. I played even though I hated it until I was in the 7th grade. To make things worse, for about 2 to 3 of those years my dad was one of my coaches and he worked me so hard, which added to the reasons I didn't want to play. My father would constantly tell me to work in a world changing up one line of code at a time. It didn't make sense to me then, and even now I still don't understand it. I got into coding thanks to that constant push, but even to this day I don't think you can program a cohesive app like that. He thinks coding is like building Legos. Would be cool if that was true, but it's more like making a living thing out of cells. The stuff has to work in chunks and then as a cohesive thing. Really depends on the way you think about your code though. It might not be that important, but my parents would hound me about saying both Happy Halloween and thank you after getting candy while trick or treating. If I didn't say one of them, they would constantly remind me for the next few houses. It was when I was old enough to understand, but young enough to get flustered in front of a stranger and forget what I was supposed to say. Trick or treat. Smell my feet. Give me something good to eat. Get a job in literally anything except art. They supported art as a hobby, but my whole family has admitted that they think I'll be a starving artist. I'm a trans man. I was named after my great-grandmother when I was born. I tried to come out to my parents as trans a couple times and they just acted like they didn't hear me, but would then go out of their way to talk about my gender, i.e., what dress are you wearing to prom? You know, your name has been in the family for generations. It's beautiful. Your dad always wanted a baby girl. He was so happy when you were born, etc. etc. That last one was a big point of guilt and hesitation for me since I have 5 brothers and no sisters from my dad. Thing is, I really like my old name. It just didn't fit. They eventually listened to me when I took them to a therapy session with me and came out then. Especially took me seriously when I started hormones. They're both a lot more open-minded and accepting now, but from 14-18 years old I just sort of assumed they were going to disown me. Piano classes. Took 7 years and I hated every day of music school. Also, to be a good Christian, which was kind of useless in the end. Play baseball. I was always into basketball and football as a kid. My dad is kinda racist and said a white kid like me had a better chance in baseball, and that it was safer and I could play it longer. I was pretty stubborn, so I hated baseball until I was about 17. Kind of to be a silent submissive wife with children. Whenever I showed emotion or got rightfully upset about something, it was always I'll give you something to cry about or that I don't respect them. So depressed teenage years came and some lashing out as an adult because I bottled up all my emotions until it got too much and I realized I needed a lot of therapy. So almost 3 years of therapy, a loving and compassionate partner, soon to be husband. Later I'm almost at a point where I no longer show bursts of emotions but try to explain why I'm upset or angry. The kids part turned into I can actually choose not to be a mom. That's amazing because I actually don't want them. Lifted a lot of weight off my chest, and after a couple of persistent years, where are my Gra and Barbies? They don't ask anymore. I used to be a super creative, ginormous bookworm. My family encouraged it, and I loved the attention. The fantasy worlds I escaped to and burned through at lightning speed was nice, too. Then, I started my freshman year of high school. That ability to win the award for most AR points crashed, and my aunt asked where that had gone. She tried making me get a book to bring it back. It didn't work. Honestly, it kinda hurt that I was expected to be the bookworm. Even after I'd grown out of that phase, I still love fiction stories. Don't get me wrong, I just read it on AO3 now. Be perfect. Get good grades. Don't say anything that will upset one person in the world or your disappointment. You can't be fat or nobody will love you, said to me when I was 9. Don't speak. Look perfect. A big one. Don't lie about your stupid head. This was after I finally got the courage to tell my family about my suicidal thoughts and depression. Also, after I came out to my older sister as a demisexual. Sports. I was not a naturally athletically gifted child, and team sports were the worst for me, but my parents insisted on signing me up for soccer, softball, volleyball, and basketball leagues for years. I still hate participating in any kind of sport to this day. I used to do extracurricular sports pretty much all throughout primary school, but then high school came along, and I realized I hated pay. My dad wanted me to play professional football and pay his retirement. He made it very clear to me that, as the second son, my sole purpose was to save my parents from the debt they developed while I was a child. Go to church. I was a pretty self-motivated kid who loved school, so they didn't have to worry about me too much in general. I'm a successful adult now, but an atheist. Sorry mom and dad. Hey, not all people turn out the way their parents want them to. Don't feel forced to accept Christianity or any other religion for that matter. To not spend money. Parents constantly screamed at each other about minor stuff, like $5 on screwdrivers from Walmart despite being pretty dang wealthy. Dad made over $200k annually, but I was too scared to ask for money to go on a 5th grade class field trip to Six Flags. Ended up being the only one in class who didn't go. Sat with a substitute teacher in class until I lied and said my mom was supposed to pick me up at 10. Walked home and lied saying that it was a half day. I'm not sure if it was intentional or not, but they really emphasized gender roles and would make fun of me if I ever did something that went against my assigned sex. Jokes on them though. Now I've realized I'm gender fluid and am being as masculine and feminine as I dang well please. Be perfect by suppressing all human emotions. Don't cry, don't laugh, don't speak unless spoken to, and then answer quietly. I had a YouTube channel when I was 10. I made news reports on my local community's roller derby team. Just simple stuff like about highlights and point totals. The team watched these videos and I became a hit with the whole community. I continued making videos, which increased my popularity online. I was on a radio show, I'm in a book. My mom loved the attention I guess and started pressuring me to write scripts and taking video making seriously. I hated the pressure and eventually quit going to bouts. My parents, RIP, pushed Catholicism on me. I drifted away from it totally by the time I was 16. Heck, my mother even had her parish priest write me a letter inviting me back into the church when I was in my mid-20s. I'm atheist now, but no, my parents were only doing what they thought and believed to be right. Be a stereotypical woman of the Gen X book. I know boomers get a lot of hate from millennials and zoomers, but the Gen Zers really have a role in this gap as well. Starting at 12, my mom would start constantly asking me if I wanted to learn how to use and wear makeup. When I refused, she would get all awkward and ask if she needed to shop for clothes in the boys aisle. Then she would ask me to let my hair down sometimes because having it up apparently made me look like a boy. Then when my GP said I was healthy in spite of being only 85 pounds at 14, my build is very slight, my mom laughed and told me to enjoy it while it lasts because I was gonna get fat and ugly once I had kids of my own. Then I had awful acne as a teenager. Never really went away but has since retreated to the pubertic normal. As in, at 16 I had acne from my scalp down to my thighs, with no breaks in between. And no amount of creams, serums, scrubs and masks would get it to go away and would only make it worse. She finally gave up at 18 when she had dragged my butt into the bathroom one night, undressed me and was picking at the pimples right next to my nipples. Threw her hands up in exasperation and claimed that I only ever wanted a beautiful daughter and I got stuck with you instead. I would give more on the aftermath of that, but it digresses from the point I'm making to never project an image of what you expect onto your kid. It just makes them turn into the opposite of what you want. I was basically forced through Boy Scouts all the way to Eagle. It really wasn't my thing. I tried to quit but was always talked out of it. Hard to think about all that time I spent that could have been devoted to things I was actually passionate about. Also, they lie. No one gives a crap that you made Eagle Scout in job interviews. Earning a livelihood and doing college. Eventually, once I get those, I guess, marriage will be the next dumb thing. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.